Hi guys, Jen here with Astrology and Earth Magic. I'm here with a little astrological wisdom to take us through our next outer planet transit. And that will be Neptune making its final ingress into the sign of Aries, and that will be on January 29th. And it will be there until 2039. So starting anew, because Neptune has now completed its cycle around the zodiac. So now it's time to evolve. And we have 14 years that it's going to be there for this evolution, for this change, for it to dissolve what's not necessary and to reimagine it with a new, completely reformed look about it. So of course, it's not going to be easy. Whatever area this falls in your life, you're going to face some confusion. You're going to have a lot of just mental exhaustion and even a feeling of feeling defeated and just feeling like, you're just unsure. Neptune really just can dissolve what Saturn works so hard to build. So you might feel in that area of your life that things are kind of getting broken down. So you have to work on rebuilding it maybe in a new way, shaping it differently. And so in this area of your life, to make these dreams a reality, to make these things that you've been working for become your new normal, to become your reality, we must really cultivate our creative side and work with Neptune. Open your mind and your heart so you can just transcend through these barriers and dissolve in the places and then overflow into others, just really recreating those boundaries. So in Aries, it will take on a much more initiative and active approach to this. It's going to be like a reawakening almost, especially that it's restarting the whole zodiac in Aries. So it's all anew. It's like a rebirth and individualism, because Aries is about me, not we. So unlike Pisces, where you're kind of tethered, Aries is about self-liberation, self-identity, and you challenge what really may have been like deliberate misrepresentations and illusions. So sorry, I just can't speak today. I'm just having one of those weeks. So it just happens. And Pisces isn't really my friend. And in my zodiac releasing, whenever my fourth level is in Pisces, always kind of have not so great of a time. So that's this week for me. So hopefully that will look up, because it did change into Aries today. So looking back on Neptune and Pisces, where it was since 2011, in what way did you feel confused? Did you face that confusion and uncertainty? Did you feel tethered, just going along and flowing with the current, trying to find an inlet for yourself? Where did you sacrifice yourself? So now it's moving into a different part of your life. So personally for me, Neptune in Pisces was transiting my second house. So a lot has happened to me, and I just really had to go with the flow and just kind of hope that things would fall into place. I got divorced right in the beginning of it, right in 2011. Things like finances were just really fluid. Was figuring out a new way to do everything, to pay for everything now, being a single mom. I sold property, I bought property, changed jobs at one point. And at times I did feel lack of control, and I felt overwhelmed. Felt defeated. I felt like I was always just treading water, but I always kept my head above water, and I always looked towards the horizon, because I always tried to stay as positive as possible through it all, and to just kind of really work on, even though things were changing, how would I then change myself to make everything work? So that's the kind of thing that you have to do when there is confusion, when you're nervous, when you're unsure. Kind of just go with the flow, but figure out a new way to do it, new boundaries, new things. So all those old ways, all the things that you were used to, like that Saturn, all that responsibility, it changes and it gets muted with that Neptune. So it's just kind of changing the way you go about things. So as a collective, since 2011, we've seen lots of storms. It seems like storms are becoming more and more intensified with floods. We see gas and oil prices fluctuating. Neptune rules liquids. Here in the United States, it was in the third house, which is transportation, communication. So we definitely have seen evolutions in transportation with a focus really on a different form of how they go with electric vehicles, and then it goes back to gas. So things were very fluid. That was the main focus. Now it's kind of falling back on that. We also saw private entrepreneurs creating rockets to get into space, to travel, space travel, to go to the unknown, very Neptune there. And even aliens and alien life, UFOs, things once saw fantasy becoming reality, with different things coming out from the government saying that these things have been seen. We've also had comets coming in from different galaxies that have a strange makeup to them, especially 3i Atlas, but also Lemon and Swan. So what other life is there out there? What information were those comets maybe bringing to us? So also, we've seen changes in communication with news outlets, just being untrustworthy, cutting stories to fit whatever narrative was going on at the time. And this is either side. Both sides were doing it. Perceived stories, hypotheticals, and deliberate misrepresentations, I said at that time, to instill fear in us so that we would have to think a certain way. It was hard to know what was, fact and what was fiction. And that is in that kind of communication, how we process and get information. That's that third house. Now in our community, which is also a very third house around here, we faced lockdowns during this. We were kept apart due to the pandemic. So we saw boundaries going up. We had pandemics, COVID, Zika virus. We had problems with the water in Flint, Michigan. So, different rules started, laws themselves, lawmakers mutating the laws and rules that we had to adhere to. And we just kind of, like those tethered Pisces fish, we just kind of went along with it. Just like, okay, I guess we can't do this now. Okay, I guess we got to stand 6 feet apart. And okay, I guess we got to do this. So I can see how that Neptunian, we were so confused and we were afraid that we just did go along with anything that was kind of just made up as they went along. And then we started seeing, once Neptune started making its little ingresses into Aries, we started seeing those sneak peeks of AI, along with, of course, the Pluto ingress into Aquarius. So Aries provides a very different, nuanced Neptune. It's more about liberation and freedom. It's that oneness, the meanness, dissolving and taking away power of those that are on the higher ups. So just before this ingress, things will continue. This is at the end of the month, but Neptune is sitting at that 29th degree, just really hammering down. So things are going to continue to intensify through the end of January, through that ingress. Themes around oil, drugs, water, toppling leaders, storms and flooding and that kind of thing. We're seeing that all over the place. And seeing with oil, we're seizing oil ships. So that's oil and water, seizing those oil ships, taking them, bombing drug boats. So there's again water, drugs, both Neptunian themes, and toppling and dissolving power. Think of the Venezuelan president that just kind of got ousted from his seat. So, and I would expect more as we go through January. So it's really best to just be prepared, you know, especially if you're in an area that could have flooding, be prepared for that. You know, snow could accumulate. I know here it's been kind of crazy and the ice has been crazy. So just a different form of water, and the ice has just, I almost slid right off my driveway yesterday, and the other side of my driveway is basically a cliff. So just be safe and just be aware of what's going on around you. As we get closer to that Aries fire, again, things are going to intensify. So Neptune will likely just go out like a tidal wave. So don't expect it to just be that, oh, boop, 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 oh, it's just, you know, all escapism and nice and fluffy and fuzzy. It's going to bring a little bit more intensity with its transition into the U.S. 4th house. Expect themes around the well-being of the people of the United States. Again, about liberation, about the identity of the nation and how it looks from the outside, who we are and how we're perceived by the outside. Perception, a lot of perception. So, and that can be even personal perception, how people see you. On a personal level, it's how you exude yourself is how people will perceive you. And you can mute that if you want to. You can change the way people perceive you by just the different ways that you express yourself. Also, nationwide, we'll probably see like land division going up, or overflowing of borders, you know, maybe onto new lands, acquiring new. So looking at the past to see maybe what it's going to bring this time. Most recently, it was 1861 to 1875 that Neptune was in Aries. And we saw then the Civil War. Now, we know the division that's going on in the United States right now. But we saw division of land. We saw, though, also liberation and the freeing of the slaves and the Emancipation Proclamation, and also the 14th Amendment, giving freedom to all the U.S. citizens. Oil refining began in 1961. So we see that liberation with that Aries being free. We saw the division of borders with the Civil War, and oil refining. We see, oil, which is, that Neptunian. Also, we saw communication with the telegraph connecting the world that was invented, and also innovations like the light bulb, allowing us to see in the dark, to see through that fog, to see and illuminate around us. So that, again, is clearing that Neptune like haze that you have, and the light bulb, opened it up. With this current Neptune transit, along with all the other outer planets, this one's going to be, I think, so much more powerful, so much more impactful on the world as we know it. They're all changing signs very close together, and this can be a completely transformative decade as they move through, together they move through their new signs. Maybe, like I said, changing the world as we know it. But what is it going to bring to us? Will we have a new form of civil war? So we already know in the United States, we're so divided. Will we see the dissolution of borders, of government, of political parties? With Saturn and Neptune kicking really this all off at the end of February 20th, and that's just 3 days after the annular solar eclipse in Aquarius, there is going to be a revolution. Something is just going to be at its peak when they're making their ingress, and then all of a sudden we have this conjunction happening, and then we have this right at the same time as this annular solar eclipse in Aquarius, that sign of that liberation, freedom, innovation. So things are going to just ramp up, especially in February. And I think that's how it's going to start. It's going to start crazy. And then we're going to have to use the rest of the time, this next 14 years, to get used to what the world is turning into. So I expect nothing less than, a total change in our current government and political party system, and how it's going to somehow dissolve, change as Neptune breaks down what Saturn has built over all these years, making way for a whole new style of government, a new system of government, a new way people govern. I think we're going to see a big change in that. And even these political parties, which are so divisive right now, I think there's going to be huge changes with those as well. So it's really just like Saturn is the old rules. Saturn is, the old boys club, or what they call like the old government. And Neptune is breaking that down and can break that down and then reform it into something completely different, but maybe a little bit similar. So this can also take on a higher octave with an evolution of spirit. So I really see us all evolving as, how we communicate with each other, and maybe even forms of telepathy if we open our minds up, or who we are with who we communicate with. Is it going to be with UFOs or other galaxies, or these things that we're going to be learning over the next, few months, few years? And we start reaching out, because we do things start filtering out more and more about alien life and life in other galaxies. Even again with other people, are we going to be even more connected instead of phones? Are we going to have, chips in our brains? Because we already see this developing as well. They are making chips that you can have, that can help you see, that help you walk, that help you hear. And what else are they going to be able to do as they transform it and make things easier? So when you just want to think something and we want to learn something, just think it and it will just pop up. I see it in how we receive news and information. Again, these news outlets that once our main way of getting information are already starting to dissolve. We're already going to things like podcasts and, social media to find news, because we can't trust them, because they have been just really distorting the facts. And it's that deliberate distortion that makes us not unable to believe them. So I think that a lot of those, news outlets that we, especially my age people, have depended on all this time, are really going to change, and they're going to kind of fall to the wayside. I see us also dissolving or developing new ways of escapism. So now we're seeing right now in the United States this war on drugs, with fentanyl being just so dangerous. So maybe the drugs are going to change, the type of drugs are going to change, new drugs are going to come out, or, attacks on drugs where they just stop producing them. Also escapism in the form of AI. We already are seeing like these goggles, but, what's it going to be coming into play? Is it going to seem like we're just living in a dream? And when I think about that, I think about all this, really, all this transformation and how the world is changing right before our eyes. I think of the movie Demolition Man. If you haven't seen it, watch it, because you'll be like, okay. I mean, it's kind of old and it's kind of cheesy, but it's about how the world kind of just is completely different. And people, even when they have sex, they don't even touch each other. They do it with these, AI masks on. So, that would suck, but is life going to be like that? Is it going to be like that we communicate when we're not together? We already see this happening as well. Is it going to just continue to develop where like our eye to eye and, contact with each other starts to dissolve, and everything is through like social media or through text, or, we don't meet the same way that we used to. All that's through, websites and things like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of watch all this develop. We also have Mercury on the 26th going retrograde. So this is, this is bringing up stuff from the past to knock those once untouchable off their pedestals. So here's, again, what I think is going to really set those wheels in motion of what's going to reform our government, and, celebrityism and that type of thing. So all these people that were once untouchable are now going to kind of have to face and, pay the piper for their past indiscretions, because things, continue to keep popping back up. And things can't be hidden anymore. With Neptune moving into Aries, it's more ramped up. It's not just that kind of double Neptunian energy where, again, you're just kind of believing what you're told and just going with it. And Aries is a much, again, different nuance than Neptune in Pisces. So again, what else will Neptune devolve, and what will evolve during this 14-year-old transit that will, have all its help from Uranus and Pluto to really just transform the world, to transform, how will it change and shape us as individuals and as a nation and as a, solar system even. With AI, again, are we doomed for a future of uncertainty? Are we going to never really know what's real and what's fantasy? Already I saw too a commercial with a guy that's supposedly not even real. He's just AI. And you're hearing songs come out from that aren't even sung by real people, that are, AI songs that are created all by AI, books and things that are created by AI. And I personally, I find it kind of disturbing, and I really hope that this isn't the way life is, but shit, I'm over 50, so I don't have tons of time to, by the time it's out, I'm going to be in my 70s, and, but, deciphering between reality and fantasy, I think that is going to become more and more difficult. So we'll see how this works out for all of us. So just look into your chart, look at what house this falls in, and how this may play out, where you might see that. So when you have kind of a head start and a look ahead, it's like, okay, if this is in my third house, am I going to have difficulty with communication? And is it then going to be a little more confusing? Even, community in your community, in, with transportation, am I going to change that? So how are you going to be kind of moving along and evolving and creating new borders and dissolving? Also, still trying to keep, again, your head out of water. So it'll be very interesting to find out. So let's go on this journey together, guys. Hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe, of course, and please leave your comments and let me know what you think. Maybe how Neptune and Pisces affected you, how you see things maybe changing for the future. And, it'd be great, and will help grow the channel. And then I can continue putting out all this content, and I just really enjoy doing it. And I really enjoy hearing what everyone has to say. And we got big changes coming up. So let's do it together. I will see y'all soon. Bye.